Okay, sure, that's fine. Cheers.
Cheers, Alex. Congratulations on your first day as a paid employee in Washington, D.C. Cheers to
Yes.
that.
Well, I mean,
Congratulations.
thank you. Not quite DC, but yeah, I mean, orientation doesn't really count. Work
Yeah.
actual, all I really did is just get a white button-up shirt and a tie that I loosened so I could just
You look
unloosen it.
good.
Just so I could unloosen at the end of the day. Go, oh, I can unloosen my tie now.
And I love your office. You have an office. I love the fact that.
Yeah, I know. A paid intern gets an office. Oh, I'm living it.
Yeah.
So, how was your week?
The week was good. We have Paige Englander, one of the graduates of the Alex Madagian Critical Thinking Club at Santa Barbara City College. Paige has started his own Young Americans for Freedom Club, following up. Now, Cage is only, 16 years old. He's a
Good for him.
advanced placement student.
He is a future leader of America.
He
Cheers,
is
Cage. Cheers.
He's also getting an article that's coming out in the news press tomorrow. We don't know how that happened to us, but it's probably going to be a good article. We don't know. You don't know until they actually publish it. Anyway, he says hello, best wishes, we all do. But you know what? It occurs to me that something you and I talked about a long time ago. We talked about the decline of young men into manhood in America today. We find young men. I published three articles from Psychology Today.
You say you published the articles. You shared them on Facebook. Let's not get the two confused, okay?
Three published, okay? But they're by
Anyway.
Miles Strauss, and he is a PhD psychologist. And he's one of the few psychologists that I actually can take to the bank. And what he said in these three articles is that men your age, you're 21, men between the ages of 21 and 23 are less inclined to get into a relationship with a woman as a prospect for a life as a childbearing co-procreator. Because, number one, men do not feel that they are welcome in society and are being blamed and as the source of rape and privilege and aggressiveness and power, and they're not warming up to the fact of going to college. In fact, the ratio of men your age going to college has dropped by 10% over the last 6 years, according to Dr. Ross. In any case, I'd like to get your views of, because I know that you're looking for a wife. You'd like to meet someone.
No. I'd like to point out many wives are looking for me, okay?
I'm looking for you. That's the other way to look through the telescope properly. I appreciate you, Galileo. Make sure you. But what is your view? I mean, are women anymore, or is Dr. Groff correct that women are not women anymore in the eyes of people?
Well, I don't want to speak out of turn for two big reasons. Number one, first and foremost, I am only 21 years old, and I do not account for all my male counterparts.
You know that.
Number two is that at the same time, the thing about me is that I specifically never bothered really trying really hard to get into relationships with girls if I didn't really feel convinced. And I say feel convinced because think is one thing. You never really, in relationships at my age, you never really think. You really only feel.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. I never really felt as though there was somebody I would want to spend the rest of my life with. And of course, at the same time, I can't really make that kind of call when I'm anywhere from 15 to 21. I barely have lived half my life. I hope I haven't lived half my life yet.
Let me ask you this question.
How could I make a call like that?
When did you stop using the word girls and start using the word women?
See, that's the thing is, I I really only use the word woman for people about 10 years older than I do.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't view women who are 20, you're 21 years old.
Hmm.
Legally, you're a man. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not ready to call 21-year-old girls women right now. Is that what you're saying?
Come to think, that's an interesting point. I don't think, now that you brought this up, I don't think I've ever encountered somebody my age that I've thought of as a woman, a female counterpart my age. I've met people that are 21 years old that I thought of as men, but I don't think
Hmm.
I've met anyone my age
Well,
that
how
I would
old
call
is
a
your
woman.
cousin Sabrina? How old is she?
Oh, she's 2 years older than I am.
Okay, so she's older than you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've met Sabrina many times, and I consider her to be a young woman,
Sure, sure. I'd be willing
not
to
a
say
girl.
that.
She's not a girl. She's not a
Yeah,
girl.
yeah. That's that. I mean, but in terms of dating,
Yeah.
she never was on my radar.
Oh, of course
She's
not. She's your cousin, of course. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's just
so
vile. That's just vile,
yeah.
vile,
Get that
vile,
out of
vile.
your mind too.
Ah,
Anyway,
filth.
anyway. But getting back to your question,
Yeah,
I don't mean to deter or anything
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
whole nother concept in Asia right now because
Mm,
of China's one-child policy,
mm,
and for many different reasons, Japan.
mm.
There just have not been a lot of female births. A lot of men just are choosing not to marry. A lot of this, a new rise in
In the
Japan.
Orient, you mean? In the Orient?
Yeah,
China,
well,
Japan?
that's what your generation calls it. We are supposed to
Okay.
call it Asia. So the Far East, at least, you have to say it like that.
Right. Must be
So
politically correct.
what's rising in Japan are these sort of cafes where people like in their 40s and 60s, they can walk into a bed. They don't do any sex or anything like that. They don't unchain. They just lie in a bed and stare at girls or young women, sometimes girls. Japan is one of the top producers of child pornography, FYI.
Right, 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 right.
They don't do anything sexual. They just stare at each other. Sometimes, and for extra, you can cuddle. There's these whole cafes set up just for that. And if
Wow.
so, I mean, if you think the
I
United
didn't know
States,
anything about that. I knew nothing about that.
oh,
Yeah.
it's horrible. I mean, just from a spiritual standpoint and a sexual
Mhm.
standpoint. And then China, there's this huge problem. Men literally cannot find wives because they have aborted their girls. They have, I mean,
Mhm.
literally, you can see that there is a shortage of women. Because if you only have one child, boy, male or female, and you're a Chinese couple,
Mhm.
you want that person to take care of you in your old age. So you pick the man.
It's a male, right? That's going to be a male.
You're going to pick the man. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can call the Chinese sexist all you want. If you want to, fine. I don't blame you. I really don't. That because it is pretty sexist, to be quite frank.
Yeah, but you can see, even though the Oriental mind does not have the same kind of metaphysical transcendence that the Western mind has,
Eastern.
nevertheless, yeah, but no, they don't have the same mind as the Western mindset.
Hmm.
Uh, Nevertheless, they do have a practical mindset that more men born, more boys born, is going to be more productivity for the family, and the longevity of insurance for old age. Having many sons is going to be a blessing in the Oriental mindset. So even though they have disjointed procreation from anything transcendental like we used to have in the West, nevertheless, they do believe in some sort of practical for this. But in America, uh, the decline in uh, male interest in, we're talking about your age group now, male interest in coupling. Let's put it that way.
Mm,
Whether or not the coupling is
the
going to be,
hookup culture.
the hookup culture is going to be just for the sex, or whether it's going to be a rehearsal or a test drive, like test drive in a car, or whether it's going to be a commitment to a marriage and appropriation, all those things. Dr. Groth goes over these things in these articles.
You know, I really do think that the whole revolution on gender, because it really only was a thing for like the last 5 years or
Oh
less
yeah,
than that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
3 years if anything. It really was not taken seriously a decade ago.
I didn't get any term papers on gender until 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. But the reason why it's becoming a thing is because my generation needs to explore beyond the, well, as they call it, the binary system of gender identification, because it's almost as though they have to it's like a self-saving mechanism, because they've tried, I mean, since the 60s they've been trying the male and female thing, sometimes male and male, female, as many as, they, to find happiness that way,
Right,
and to
right.
find fulfillment and purpose,
And meaning.
and it's just not there. It's just
No.
not working. So they're getting creative.
Right.
I mean, I'd love to have a devil's advocate debate between you and me where I defend the transgender ideology. I'd love to do that, because I really do think I can give it a fair case, like an authentic and fair case.
You mean you would argue in favor of the transgender psychology?
Yes, I would.
Notice I do not call it a biology. I call it a psychology.
Well, I mean, they would agree with you there, but that's for another time.
All right.
The
We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, we can. That'll be great conversation. But
Oh,
that's why
transgender. We got to do a podcast on transgender.
Transgender will do a podcast on us. Okay.
Remember how the club members from your club used to vote every week, and transgender was always on the agenda.
Oh,
and finally, they got
nobody had the strength to really support it. They all nominated,
but
they didn't
Xavier
really want...
Xavier Gilles who finally voted it in. He finally
Man, you called that guy out so bad.
I know.
Anyway, but never that off topic. Getting back on topic.
Yeah.
It really, what really screws up my generation is that and I want to make this crystal clear to the audience, is that sex never really was meant to be a short-term thing.
Mm-hmm.
It really wasn't. I mean, you really think the most intimate form of physical intimacy is supposed to be just something you do, like eating cheese, on the weekend, brie cheese and wine. It's not, it's not something like eating where you do it to sustain your life.
But it is considered a bodily function in today's culture.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not like, it's not sneezing.
People even argue and hate each other while they're having sex. This is really interesting. They argue and fight while they're having sex. Then they have make-up sex after the argument. You know about these things, don't you?
I try to avoid these things. I try to do things like study the Bible.
Well, I've been around the planet
Play-Doh.
for 74 years, and I can tell you about make-up sex.
Oh, my word. I'm sure you can. Yeah,
It's
make-up sex, as you apply mascara, all that stuff. Anyway, but getting back to it, that's really the problem oh, stop it, you. Don't be so...
H-O-M.
Look, I know you're not a homosexual, but you are pretty gay.
What sexism?
No,
I'm an actress.
Getting back to it, that is the reason why my generation is the way it is because nobody really was there to tell them about sex. And I've talked I've talked with a lot of my peers about it. Virtually every person I know, and I mean even the most fundamentally Christian people, everyone I've been close to has admitted to me one point or another that they've watched porn.
Yeah.
That they have sexual fantasies. It is and what with virtually every other movie, showing some sex depictions, advertisements. I mean, innuendos are in virtually everything.
Yeah, and their fantasies are both bisexual and homosexual and heterosexual.
Yeah,
because it's available, because pornography is such a available thing on the internet, they can now.
But also, I detect that parents, it's not. I mean, it's more than they're just ill-equipped, but they're afraid of talking about it.
If the parents are even there, Dr. Roth mentions this point. Many of the millennials who have abandoned the idea of a family and procreation through sexuality are single-parent children.
I think the black community has something like greater than 60% born out of wedlock.
It's
nationally, it's 50%.
And we've known this since the 70s when the Moynihan Report is the
50%
issue.
of
That's
marriages
right.
end in divorce. You know,
We've known this since the Johnson administration.
I mean, yeah,
Johnson. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what do you think?
It's
What's
not a
going to
secret.
happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to be repeating talking points that everyone's heard.
No,
I
but
want I want to get back to the core of the thing is that even those that do stick with it, the parents that do stick with it, a lot of the parents that
mhm,
I knew, friends of my parents, and parents of my friends, they that did stick together, that did love each other. Maybe they did divorce after the kids moved out, whatever.
mhm,
Most of them were just afraid of having conversations about sex
mhm,
with their parents, how it should be, not even how it should be done, but why it should be done.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
See, that's what also bothers me when I hear people talking about explaining the birds and bees to their children.
Parents,
It's
yeah.
always about how you do it.
Right.
I've never heard or in very few exceptions, I've heard people talk about why it should be done. It
Mhm,
really is not talked about.
mhm.
Even in the churches. I mean, the churches, I would say, I don't think I've heard one sermon on proper sexual relationships.
Mhm.
I've
Well,
never
well,
heard one sermon,
no.
maybe in intimate groups,
Yeah.
sure, but not one sermon I've ever heard a pastor denounce premarital sex, casual sex.
How did that happen? In your view, how did we get how did we get to a point where we have disjointed procreation from sexuality? How did
Walk
that,
into a room of people and say sex very loudly.
you know?
People,
Sex.
right? People are going to give you, it's going to be very, very. Now, walk in the same room and say gender.
Gender.
That's going to have less of a reaction.
Yeah. How
And
about the word procreation?
well, then they'll just think, oh, who let Mark McIntyre in here? What
Yeah,
was,
exactly.
was
They don't even know the word procreation. They don't even understand the word
right?
procreation.
And I have to explain this to a lot of my friends is that the
Ah,
purpose of marriage really is not pleasure. Pleasure is like a side product, is a
yeah.
wonderful byproduct of it. Love is,
Mm,
another byproduct, and all these other things that
yeah.
people are searching.
Happily, happily, I know a couple. You know them too. They're pregnant, and we had a dinner, a very nice dinner the other night, and we were
Wonderful.
talking about this very thing. We were talking about this exact point as to how world society got to the point where sex has been disjoined, unhooked from procreation.
Another
And now they're millennials, by the way. They're not iGens. They're millennials. They both work. They have good jobs. They have good prospects. They have good careers. They're very intelligent. They're very caring. They're very religious.
wonderful,
Uh,
wonderful family.
Wonderful
I
people.
know
I
exactly who you're
know
talking
yeah,
about.
exactly. I'm not going to mention their names, and I want to put them on the spot. But the thing is that these are in short supply. These kinds of people are in very, very short supply. I
I agree. No, I agree. I
I,
agree.
and I'm counting on you guys, the ICANN people, to restore the balance of things. I know.
Well, thank you for shifting so much burden on me, but I'm going to shift some back to your generation and all
What?
before,
What?
simply to
What?
say, you guys need to step up and teach us this stuff.
Well, we're disappearing,
I
pal.
know. Do as much
We're
as
on our way out. We're on our
work,
way out.
work while the light lasts.
My bags are packed and they're at the front door.
Okay, that's fine. One more point. One more
At
point.
the front.
Before we
Yeah,
wrap up.
yeah.
My
It's a good
pastor.
discussion. I like this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a healthy one. My pastor, my youth pastor, brought up this interesting point that
Yeah.
a lot of people never consider when they hook up for the first time at 16 or whatever.
Right.
Is that when you later settle down and marry, you do not want all that extra baggage with you in that
Mm-hmm.
relationship because
Mm-hmm.
you carry all that in you to the
Mm-hmm.
bedroom.
Oh yeah.
Every
Yeah.
because this
Yeah.
person, if you reserve sex for that one person becomes really special. But if you
Yep.
did it with even one other person, you cannot. I mean, there is no more greater physical intimacy you can have with that
No, it's
person.
true. It's
Even
true.
if you're
Yeah.
married to them, you cannot physically be more intimate than that one hooker you messed around with in high school or whatever.
Right.
You are eternally stuck there. And that, to me, That seems like an eternal prison.
You're
I
one of
would
the
not want.
you are one of the only people I know on the planet, and I don't know a lot of people your age, but who actually has the ability to speak eloquently about the uh, special place that first time virginal sex has in marriage.
Mm. But I'd love to elaborate on that more. But not only am I inexperienced, we're out of time.
We're out of time, kids. We like to talk about sex. Tell us what you want to talk about
Sex,
more.
drugs, or rock and
Sex,
roll.
drugs,
In
rock and
his case, he
roll.
might do rap. Unfortunately, I'm
Boo, boo,
sorry,
boo,
guys.
boo, boo,
In
boo,
any event,
boo,
guys,
boo, boo.
really, I really encourage you to subscribe to iTunes,
Hey, thanks a lot.
YouTube channel.
Our subscribers are going up. Keep up the good work. That makes us happy that we're appealing to what you're viewing. And give us some suggestions. We really appreciate it. All the likes, the shares, and subscribing.
Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers, Alec.
Bye, guys.
Diddly Bob.